introduction now. Rafal Kaczmarczyk would like to give a presentation. You are from the University of Warsaw in Poland as well, and you will be talking about the legal status of Tatars in the Polish territories between the 14th and the 20th century. Okay, I'm going to pass to you. And the floor is open. Thank you.
Is it the mic? Yes. Okay. Where is it? It's okay here. So, I'd like to make a presentation on legal status of Tatars in Polish territories between 14th and 20th century. And speaking Polish territories, I mean, first of all, Kingdom of Polish Crown and Grand Duchy of Lithuania in the period of Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. And then after Second Republic of Poland, Polish People's Republic, and Third Republic of Poland. Now question, where from the Tatars came to Polish territories? They appeared in 14th century in the period in which the Golden Horde has started to fall apart. Tatars were divided into two main groups in townspeople who were working with selling the cattle or with handcraft and so on. And they are, in fact, not really important. Of course, they were granted with freedom of religion and so on, but the most important group of Tatars were nobles, who in fact were not members of Polish or Lithuanian gentry. However, their status was quite similar, especially in the area of judicial law or tax law. They were important also because the Grand Duke, or in other words, Hospodar, has been giving to them the land properties under the feudal law, and the obligation of the Tatar who was given with that grant was to take part in the military service for the Duke. And in that period, the main military force of the country was the general gentry militia. Tatars were not part of it. They were responsible directly to the Duke, or later the King. It was really important because the general militia was not very good. And those properties were firstly tax-free. However, in 16th century, the gentry started to reduce the rights of the Tatars who were holding those Tatar properties in Polish Tatarszczyzny. And those Tatars, in other words, were called Hospodar Tatars because they are those Tatars who are serving to the Duke. And from 1529, when the first Lithuanian statute was went into the force, which was the first codification of Lithuanian law, in fact, the Tatars were forbidden to hold the official offices. They were forbidden to hold Christian non-frees in their land properties, and they were forbidden to hire the Christian servants. In 1589, the Tatar properties, Tatars who were holding the Tatar properties became obliged to pay regular land tax as all the gentry, Polish gentry and Lithuanian gentry. In 1606, the law repeated most important three guarantees that Tatars were granted. I mean, the special organization of the society. The Tatars were divided into, let's say, companies in Polish chorągwie that were ruled by ensigns in Polish chorążowie, which was not only not only a form of military organization, but also a form of social organization. The second most important freedom was, of course, the freedom of religion and freedom to build mosques. And the third one was the right to self-governance, including the fact that the Tatars could use their own religious and traditional law in relations between themselves and between them and the mosque. In 1613, all Tatars who were not obliged to military service became obliged to pay the tax, the poll tax. Of course, the military service was very hard for Tatars because they became most useful troops, and they were really often used by the rulers. So they tried to sell up the Tatar properties and buy for the money some gentry lands or to buy something else, which from what there was no obligation to military service. In 1616, the same constitution has forbidden to sell up Tatar property. However, in 1620, there was better resolution was found because since that year, each bought land property, each land property bought by Tatar has become Tatar property, and so the military service obligation was also connected with that new bought land property. In 1659, all Tatars' privileges were being given to the Tatars living in the Polish crown, because all the previous regulations considered only the Tatars from Grand Duchy of Lithuania. In the same year, the Tatars has been allowed to hire Christian servants and to buy gentry land properties. Later in 1668, the same constitution has forbidden the Tatars to build mosques in new locations. Since that time, they could only repair or rebuild the old ones. In 1773, officially, the Tatars nobles were incorporated into the Polish gentry, and in 1786, all Tatar properties became the regular and gentry land property. In fact, we can see that rights of Tatars in Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth were strictly connected to the strength or weakness of the country and to the external threats. When the country was weak and when there was any external threat to the country, the Tatars were granted with many privileges because they were needed and to defend the country, and when they were not useful or not important for the, for example, gentry in the time of interregnum, they were losing some their rights. In the 20th century, I mean, in first of all, time after First World War, the Tatars were not longer important as a military force. However, there has remained one Tatar squadron of cavalry, but it was rather a kind of tradition, nor an important military factor. And after the First World War, in Poland has been established the Muslim religious union in Republic of Poland, which was the only representation of Polish Tatars and in fact of all Polish Muslims. Only the citizens of the country could be the members of the union. And in the 1936, the President of Republic issued the law that has guaranteed freedom of religion to Tatars, as well as the right to limited self-government, and has allowed also to conclude religious marriages in front of the imam, and to conduct some civil law activities due to regulations of Islamic law. However, just after the Second World War in the Polish People's Republic in 1946, the regulations considering the religious marriages were repealed, and the Muslim religious union was no longer an important factor in policy considering the religious minority. Nowadays, in Third Polish Republic, the Muslim religious union is still working under those pre-war regulations. However, it's not an important organizer of life of Muslim minority in Poland, because most of the Tatars were living on the territories that are today the territories of Lithuania, Belarus, or Ukraine. And in fact, Tatars in Poland nowadays are not numerous and are just only a part of the Muslim minority. So I think that as Tatars are not longer important as a military force, that their rights, although that, in spite of it, Tatar rights will not be smaller, let's say, because of the human rights and the European regulations guaranteeing the freedom of religion. However, I think that there might be some opportunities to develop some rights that were forgotten. However, they are still in force due to the pre-war regulations. Thank you.